The sun rises gently through the curtains. Light spills across the room, warm and soft. You breathe in, slow and steady, feeling the morning air. Your body whispers, asking for movement, for care. A gentle stretch, arms reaching upward. The shoulders loosen, the spine lengthens, the day begins. It's a quiet ritual, a conversation between you and your body. Every breath says, I'm still here. Every motion reminds you, I can still move. For many seniors, mornings can feel heavy. Joints creak, muscles sigh, time feels slower. But stretching changes everything. It's not about youth or strength. It's about staying connected with yourself. It's about honoring the body that has carried you this far. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to move, gently and with love. In every stretch, there's a story. A story of life, of resilience, of renewal. So today, let's begin that story together, one breath, one motion at a time. Thomas sat by the window, watching the morning light spill across his garden. The roses were in bloom, bright and steady, like old friends. He used to tend them every morning, bending and trimming with care. Now his knees ached, his back felt stiff, and even standing took effort. He sighed, lifting his cup of tea, feeling the weight of stillness. Age had arrived quietly, like fog at dawn. One day, his granddaughter Lily burst through the door with a smile. "Grandpa, come stretch with me," she said, her voice full of sunshine. Thomas laughed, waving her off. "I'm too old for that, sweetheart." But Lily shook her head, her eyes bright with determination. "No one's too old to move, you just have to start small." She rolled out a soft mat on the living room floor. The color was sky blue, calm and inviting. Thomas hesitated, staring at the mat like it was a mountain. He had spent years avoiding movement, afraid of pain. But Lily's laughter was contagious. So he slowly stood, joints cracking like twigs underfoot. "Just follow me," she said, lifting her arms toward the ceiling. He mimicked her, awkward and unsure. His shoulders protested, his balance wavered. But then he took a deep breath. Something inside him shifted, a quiet warmth spreading through his chest. The first stretch was clumsy, but it felt alive. Lily giggled, "See, you're already doing it." Thomas smiled, a little embarrassed but proud. For the first time in a long while, his body felt awake. Each motion unlocked a forgotten rhythm. The arms, the legs, the breath, all moving together like an old song. He began to remember what it felt like to trust his body, to move without fear. After a few minutes, they paused, breathing deeply. Sweat formed lightly on his brow, but he felt good. "Grandpa, doesn't it feel nice?" Lily asked, her cheeks glowing. He nodded slowly. "It does, it really does." That evening, Thomas looked at himself in the mirror. He saw the same wrinkles, the same gray hair. But there was something new in his reflection, a spark. He realized that movement wasn't just for the young. It was for anyone who wanted to feel alive. The next morning, before Lily arrived, he tried the stretches again. Alone this time, in the quiet of his room. He reached up, rolled his shoulders, bent gently at the knees. The world felt lighter. His garden seemed brighter. He even hummed an old tune as he stretched. It wasn't about exercise anymore. It was about gratitude. For his breath. For his body. For the chance to move one more time. Every morning after that, Thomas greeted the day with motion. He no longer waited for energy, he created it. And in each stretch, he found a piece of himself he thought was gone. Movement became his morning prayer. A gentle reminder that life, no matter the age, still flows. Thomas began to wonder why stretching made him feel so different. It wasn't just his body loosening. It was something deeper, something calm stirring inside him. One morning, after his routine, he sat by the window with a notebook. He wrote a question to himself. Why does moving feel like healing? He smiled, tapping his pen, remembering Lily's words. Because your body remembers, Grandpa. It always remembers. He thought about it, how for years he ignored his body's whispers. Every ache, every stiffness, every sigh of fatigue. He treated them as signs of aging, not messages asking for care. But now, through stretching, he could hear those messages clearly. When he reached his arms upward, his spine would answer with relief. When he bent forward, his hamstrings would hum like strings being tuned. It was as if his body was learning to speak again. And he was finally listening. He decided to read more about stretching. He found that our muscles shorten with age if we don't move them. They grow tighter, like ropes left out in the rain. Blood flow slows down, balance weakens, and fatigue sneaks in. But gentle stretching, slow, steady, mindful, brings everything back to life. It tells the muscles to open. It reminds the joints that they can still move. It teaches the body that movement is safe, not painful. Thomas was fascinated. He realized stretching wasn't about forcing or pushing limits. It was about harmony, about listening. The science he read was simple yet magical. Stretching sends blood and oxygen to tired muscles. It nourishes them, keeps them young, helps them repair. It also calms the nervous system, slowing down the heart, easing the mind. No wonder he felt lighter after each session. His body wasn't fighting him anymore, it was thanking him. Every breath became a message of connection. Every motion was like saying, I trust you, body. He remembered the years when he worked long hours, sitting at his desk. He never thought about posture, never thought about flexibility. Now even lifting a cup of tea felt smoother, easier. It amazed him how small movements made big changes. He began to notice little things. His steps were steadier. His sleep was deeper. His mornings no longer started with groans, but with quiet anticipation. He told Lily one afternoon, I think I understand now. She looked up from her drawing. Understand what, Grandpa? That my body isn't old, it's just waiting to be used. She grinned, proud and sweet. That's exactly it, she said. He laughed, feeling like a student again. It was the simplest lesson, but the most important. Movement is medicine. Stillness, though peaceful, must be balanced with flow. Thomas wrote one more note in his book that night. Stretching is not exercise, it's conversation, it's kindness. And as he put his pen down, his hands felt light. His heart, too, seemed to stretch quietly, gently toward life again. The morning light was soft and golden as Thomas stood by his window. He took a deep breath, letting the air fill his lungs slowly. The world outside was still quiet, the kind of peace that feels sacred. He rolled his shoulders gently, feeling the first stir of energy. This was his time, his morning ritual of motion. He started the way Lily had taught him, one breath, one movement. Arms up, reaching toward the sky. The stretch felt like greeting the sun itself. His spine lengthened, his chest opened, his heart lifted. Then he lowered his arms, exhaling softly, grounding himself again. Each breath carried away a little stiffness, a little worry. He turned his head side to side, feeling the neck loosen. The simple motion reminded him that movement didn't need to be big to be powerful. His hands reached forward, fingertips brushing the air. The stretch traveled from his shoulders to his fingertips, gentle but alive. He smiled as he felt his body remember. Next came the side bends. He leaned left, then right, his ribs expanding like sails in the wind. It felt like breathing space into his entire being. The tension that once gripped his body was slowly melting away. Then he lifted one knee, balancing himself with care. At first he wobbled and laughed. Easy there, old man, he whispered with a grin. But he didn't give up. He tried again, this time finding a rhythm between strength and patience. Each motion told a story of progress. Each breath reminded him he was still growing. He moved down to his legs, bending his knees gently. The stretch in his thighs and calves was a soft burn, a whisper of life. He circled his ankles slowly, listening to the quiet clicks. Even his toes joined in, wiggling with quiet joy. When he finished the lower stretches, he stood tall again. The room felt brighter, though the light hadn't changed. He realized stretching wasn't about how far he could reach. It was about how deeply he could feel. He placed his hands over his heart and breathed in gratitude. He felt his heart beat steady, calm and strong. For the first time in years, he wasn't rushing through the morning. He was living in it fully, softly, completely. Outside, a bird began to sing, and he smiled. The music of life was still there, waiting for him to listen. When Lily joined him later, she noticed his quiet glow. "Grandpa, you look happy," she said. He nodded, eyes shining. "I feel free." And he did. Free from stiffness. Free from fear. Free from the belief that age meant stillness. That morning, as he stretched one final time, he whispered to himself, "This isn't just movement, this is living." And with that breath, the day began light, graceful, and full of motion. The afternoon sun hung gently over the garden. Thomas sat by his wooden table, a cup of tea cooling beside him. He had just finished reading, but his eyes felt heavy. A quiet yawn escaped his lips as he leaned back in his chair. Afternoons had always been his sleepy hours, the kind where time slows down, and even the wind takes a nap. But now, instead of drifting into stillness, he had a new habit. A small stretch, a pause to wake the body again. He stood slowly, pushing the chair back, his knees adjusting to movement. He took a deep breath, letting the warm air fill his lungs. "All right, old friend," he whispered to his body, "let's move again." He began by lifting his arms above his head. The muscles responded, a little tight at first, then easing open. He reached higher, stretching his fingers toward the ceiling. His spine followed, unwinding with a soft sigh. He felt the fatigue melt, replaced by quiet energy. Then he twisted his torso gently from side to side. The motion was slow, rhythmic, almost like a dance. He could hear the faint sound of his joints shifting softly, like whispering wood. Each twist sent a small ripple of warmth across his back. He smiled, enjoying the way his body woke up again. Next, he rolled his shoulders, big slow circles front and back. The tension from reading, from sitting, from years of habit, it began to fade. He didn't need music, just the sound of his breath. In and out, calm and steady, guiding every move. After a few moments, he stepped away from the table and reached for the sky again. This time he added a little balance, lifting one leg slightly. It wobbled at first, but he laughed, catching himself with grace. Movement had become play. He stretched his calves, pressing his heels gently into the ground. He could feel the pulse of life in every muscle. Not fast, not fierce, just steady and alive. As he finished, he noticed something remarkable. The heaviness that had clouded his mind was gone. His body felt lighter, but his spirit even more so. It wasn't just stretching, it was renewal. A reminder that even in the quiet of the afternoon, energy could be found. He sat down again, but this time with purpose. His back was straight, his breath even, his eyes alert. The cup of tea now tasted different, brighter, fuller. He thought about how movement could change the smallest moments. A few minutes, a few breaths, and the world shifted. Lily came in from the garden, holding a handful of flowers. "Resting again, Grandpa," she teased. He chuckled, resting but moving too. She laughed, handing him the flowers. "You move more than me now." Thomas smiled. "Maybe, my dear, Or maybe I've just learned how to keep going. And as the afternoon light wrapped around them, he knew the truth. Energy wasn't something to find, it was something to create, one stretch at a time. The evening sky was painted in shades of gold and lavender. Thomas stood by the window, watching the sun dip behind the trees. It was his favorite moment of the day, quiet, gentle, full of peace. He could feel the weight of the hours in his shoulders and back. The garden outside shimmered in the fading light, still and calm. He took a slow breath, knowing it was time to stretch once more. His evening ritual had become as natural as his morning tea. He began by sitting on his chair, feet flat, spine straight. The day's tension lingered, coiled tight like a sleeping cat. He lifted his arms slowly, reaching up as he inhaled. The motion was soft, unhurried, like the closing of a long day. As he exhaled, he folded gently forward, letting his hands rest on his knees. The stretch across his back felt like an exhale for his body. He stayed there for a moment, breathing, letting the stillness deepen. Each breath carried away the fatigue of the day. When he rose again, he rolled his neck gently, side to side. The movement was small but full of release. He could almost feel the stress melting down his spine. Then he interlaced his fingers and stretched his arms forward. The pull across his shoulders felt soothing, like loosening a knot. His breathing slowed, steady and deep. He imagined the air cleansing him, washing away the heaviness of the day. His eyes softened, his thoughts quieted. He had learned that stretching at night wasn't about effort. It was about surrender. It was about telling the body, "You've done enough, now rest." He stood and reached for the wall, gently pressing his palms against it. A calf stretch, slow and easy, one leg at a time. He could feel his balance returning, his legs grounding to the earth. The world outside dimmed as the first stars appeared. He turned off the lamp, letting the twilight guide him. He raised his arms once more, feeling the final wave of calm. Then, lowering them slowly, he sat back down. The silence around him was not empty, it was full of peace. Lily peeked into the room, her small face glowing in the soft light. "Are you done stretching, Grandpa?" she whispered. He nodded, smiling, almost just breathing now. She tiptoed over and hugged him from behind. "You smell like lavender," she said, giggling. Thomas laughed quietly. "That's what peace smells like." They sat together for a while, listening to the night settle in. A cricket sang outside. The clock ticked softly in rhythm with their breaths. Thomas closed his eyes, feeling his body completely at ease. Every muscle relaxed, every thought gentle. He had found his rhythm, movement and stillness in perfect harmony. When he finally rose to go to bed, he felt no pain, no weight. Only calm, only warmth, only life. And as he lay down, the last thought that passed through his mind was simple. "Thank you, body, for another day of motion and another night of peace." The next morning, the sun rose quietly, soft light filling Thomas's room. He woke before the alarm, body calm, mind clear. His first thought wasn't about pain anymore. It was about gratitude. He sat up slowly, feet touching the floor, feeling the coolness of the tiles. For a moment he just breathed, eyes half closed, listening to his heartbeat. It was steady, strong, a quiet song of life still moving. He stood and began his stretch without thinking. The body knew the rhythm now. Arms up, spine long, breath deep. Each motion was smooth, easy, full of memory. Stretching had become part of who he was. No longer a task, but a morning conversation with himself. He smiled as he remembered his first day, how awkward it had felt. Now every movement carried peace. He could feel his muscles responding like old friends saying hello. When Lily entered, she found him mid-stretch, balanced and focused. She gasped and clapped. "Grandpa, you look amazing." He laughed softly, I feel amazing, little one. She came closer, copying his pose with delight. Together they breathed in, reaching for the ceiling. Then they bent forward, letting the world slow down around them. Lily giggled, losing balance, and Thomas caught her gently. "See," he said, "it's not about doing it perfectly, it's about showing up." She nodded, her small face serious for a moment. "Then I'll show up every day," she said. Thomas's heart warmed. That's all it takes. As they finished their routine, he felt something deeper inside him shift. He realized stretching had changed more than his body. It had softened his thoughts, quieted his worries. It had taught him patience, with movement, with time, with himself. He understood now that aging wasn't about losing strength. It was about learning how to move differently, how to care for the body that had carried him so far. In every stretch he found humility. In every breath he found courage. When he looked at Lily, he saw the cycle of life, new and old, moving together. It wasn't just exercise anymore. It was connection, from one generation to the next. After their session, they walked to the garden hand in hand. The air was cool, the roses awake with dew. Thomas knelt beside one, touching its petals gently. "Stretching is like this," he told Lily. "It keeps us open, no matter how many seasons pass." She smiled, eyes bright like sunlight through leaves. "Then I'll bloom forever," she said proudly. Thomas laughed, a sound full of joy and truth. In that moment, he knew what motion truly meant. Not speed, not strength, but the grace to keep going. He stood tall, inhaling deeply, his heart full. Age no longer felt like a limit. It felt like a rhythm, a quiet song of endurance and care. And as the morning breeze wrapped around him, Thomas whispered to himself, "I am still moving, I am still alive, and that is enough." The day faded slowly into the soft glow of evening. Thomas sat by the window once more, watching the sky turn gold. He could feel the quiet rhythm of his breath, smooth and steady. His body no longer felt heavy or tired. It felt alive, grateful, whole. He thought of the journey, the first stretch, the laughter with Lily, the mornings of peace, the afternoons of renewal, the nights of calm. Movement had become his story, written in every breath. He smiled, knowing that age was not an ending. It was simply another chapter of motion, slower but deeper. He looked down at his hands, weathered but strong. They had learned to move with grace again. He whispered softly, "Thank you, body, for staying with me." Outside, the last bird called before nightfall. Lily's laughter echoed faintly from the next room. Thomas closed his eyes, heart light, spirit calm. Each stretch, each breath had carried him here. A place of peace, of motion, of quiet joy. And as the world settled into silence, one truth remained clear. Life keeps moving, and so will he.